Back to one of our leading stories today. Several drowning incidents have been reported at many of our beaches around the country on New Year's Day. The search continues for several others who have drowned in Durban, where 2 bodies have been recovered so far. To speak to us about some of those safety tips at the ocean, we are joined by diving expert Ratanang Maremane. Ratanang, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this evening. Now, given the recent spate of drowning incidents at beaches such as Pennington as well as the Thompsons Bay, what would you say are the key factors that contribute to water accidents, especially in rough sea conditions?
Thank you, Katlego, for inviting me. Compliments of the new season to you and the listeners. Given the incidences that have taken place, what usually are key factors that contribute is overconfidence. It's underestimating the conditions. Beachgoers usually tell themselves that I can swim. But the question usually with any water body, not just going to the beach, the question that should follow I can swim is what does I can swim mean in relation to the conditions of wherever you are, the situation that you are in. And in this case, those are the fundamentals that may have been overlooked by the beachgoers in this incident.
Yeah, I mean, you speak about those fundamentals that may have been overlooked. And I mean, you're a former SA Navy diver. In fact, you were the first, South Africa's first black female commercial diver. So from your expertise, what would you say are the most common mistakes or misconceptions? You say that people are overconfident, that many of our swimmers have, especially when it comes to ocean safety.
Katlego, it's things such as, overconfidence, such as I can swim, going into the conditions without conducting risk assessments. Risk assessments for a common beachgoer is not something that one would expect that they should be familiar with being able to conduct, but things as simple as adhering to warning signals, adhering to instructions given by lifeguards. Lifeguards are there for a reason. Lifeguards have been trained. They would have conducted the risk assessment that a common beachgoer is unable to conduct. So those are the misconceptions. Those are the oversights that a common beachgoer usually find themselves getting involved in.
And how important is just understanding the conditions of the ocean? I mean, when we're speaking of tides, currents, the weather, before you even think of swimming or just engaging in those water activities?
It's critical, Katlego. Those are very important because ocean conditions determine how the water will move. They determine a lot of things that a normal person will usually not go far into thinking about. Tides influence the currents of the ocean. The weather influences the wave energy, and the wind can change the conditions within minutes. So understanding the conditions, or at the very least, respecting these conditions can put you in a situation where you have saved yourself from a point of danger.
You mentioned lifeguards a little earlier on, and we saw in many of the current incidences where these young people have drowned, they've gone to the ocean after hours, after the lifeguards have knocked off. What role do these lifeguards and just the safety patrols play in preventing some of these drownings, and how can beachgoers better heed their warnings?
Lifeguards are trained to identify danger before it becomes an emergency. Lifeguards are often, in fact, not often, it's procedural for them when arriving on duty to conduct risk assessments, to do situational analysis, which is something that a common beachgoer will not be doing. So it's important to ensure that one puts themselves in a position where they are compliant to the warnings or to the restrictions, which we usually look at it as. And they're not there to restrict, but they are there to warn you, and their warnings are based on the risk assessments that they would have conducted. So these are informed instructions, or these are informed warnings that save our lives. So by obeying these instructions immediately, one puts themselves in a good position that could avoid, that could keep themselves out of harm's way.
Yeah. In incidents like the Pennington Beach, where multiple swimmers were then caught in those rough sea conditions, what would you give as advice in terms of what one should do when they find themselves in that trouble?
Look, fundamentally, if you find yourself in an uncomfortable situation at sea or in any water body, the most important thing to do is to not panic. Water is not something that one can conquer. Panic only accelerates exhaustion. If one ever finds themselves in a situation where they're caught in strong water movements, they should just try to stay afloat. Yes, sometimes it sounds easier said than done, but those would be the fundamentals. Stay afloat, and staying afloat would conserve energy. Conserve energy would buy you time to help reaching you.
And when we speak about what swimmers need to do in terms of recognizing dangerous water, and this might be outside of the ocean, and maybe this could be beyond your scope as a diver, but we're seeing a lot of incidences as well where people are crossing rivers, where they're driving across low-lying bridges. When you find yourself in those particular situations, what would you advise for people to do?
Again, as a matter of risk assessment, it's always best to stay away. Stay away, stay out of the water, whether in a leisure situation where you are there for fun, or you find yourself where you have to cross a river because it's because of socioeconomic issues. If you can stay away, stay away. Dangerous conditions often show, especially at beaches, dangerous conditions will show themselves way before the danger comes. So large and irregular waves are a sign. Discoloration of water, it's a sign. Strong winds, those are signs. Visible currents, flags, warning flags that are put out by lifeguards. So the signs are there. If you can stay out of the water, rather stay out of the water, because no amount of fun is worth risking a life.
And in instances where there are no lifeguards and people find themselves within these situations, do you advise for family or anyone who could be at the beach to try and rescue someone in an instance where they're seeing someone who could possibly be drowning?
There are different measures of rescuing. If you are trained to go into the water to go and rescue anyone, yes, by all means. If not, try to find objects, something that you can throw towards the person to get them to have reach, and then you can pull them out of water. So again, it's about risk assessment. Conduct the risk assessment. See, before you take action, what risk are you putting yourself in? You know, people often think that if you jump into the water to go and save someone that is in distress will be as easy as reaching that person. Remember, that person is in distress. They are likely to be going to pull you down with them. So it also speaks to conducting a risk assessment and doing what you are trained to do. If you can stay out of the water, stay out of the water.
All right. Ratanang Maremane, thank you so much.